The moment you realize someone crossed you on purpose is the moment you stop asking why and start asking how you survived it. Nobody warns you about that moment. Not the loud betrayal, not the dramatic fallout, but the quiet, stomach-turning realization that what they did wasn't accidental. It was calculated, casual, and disturbingly easy for them. That's the part that sticks. That's the part that changes people. Here's a fact that doesn't get talked about enough. Psychologists say the brain remembers intentional harm more vividly than random pain. Not because it hurts more physically, but because it shatters trust at a structural level. Your mind doesn't just say, "That hurt." It says they knew better and still did it. And once that switch flips, you don't return to who you were before. This isn't a story about being chosen, special, or magically protected. Let's be honest. If anything, you were targeted because someone thought you wouldn't push back. They assumed silence, compliance, forgetfulness, maybe even gratitude. Bold assumption, very bold, almost impressive in how wrong it turned out to be. Because something unexpected happened instead. The thing meant to embarrass you didn't shrink you. The thing meant to stain you didn't define you. And the thing meant to break you accidentally became the raw material for your power. There's also a strange kind of humor in it, if you step back far enough. They really thought that would be the end of you. That one ugly move would close the chapter. Meanwhile, you were in the background, upgrading your standards, sharpening your instincts, and uninstalling the version of yourself that tolerated nonsense. Tragic for them, inconvenient at best. This is about how something disgusting didn't ruin you. It refined you. How disrespect became education, how shock became clarity, and how the moment they underestimated you turned into the moment you stopped underestimating yourself. Stay with me, because this isn't motivation, it's recognition. Number one, what they did to you wasn't a mistake. It was a test of how disposable they thought you were. There's a big difference between someone messing up and someone making a quiet decision about your worth. Mistakes come with panic, backtracking, awkward apologies, or at least confusion. What happened to you didn't have any of that. It was clean, calm, almost casual. That's how you know it wasn't an accident. It was a test run, a moment where they asked themselves, without words, how far can I go with this person? And then they went there. They weren't curious about your feelings. They were curious about your limits. Would you speak up or swallow it? Would you call it out or excuse it for them? Would you stay or shrink? That's the part that makes it disgusting. Not the action alone, but the confidence behind it. They believed you were small enough to absorb it and move on like nothing happened. People like that don't need anger to cross lines. They need certainty. Certainty that you'll doubt yourself. Certainty that you'll explain their behavior better than they ever could. Certainty that you'll minimize your own reaction just to keep the peace. And for a moment, maybe you did. Not because you were weak, but because you were still operating from trust, while they were operating from advantage. That moment hurts because it exposes a truth you weren't ready for. They had already placed you lower in their internal ranking, not openly, not dramatically, just enough to justify doing what they did without losing sleep. That realization stings deeper than the act itself. But here's where the shift happens. Once you see it as a test, you stop personalizing it. You realize it wasn't about your value. It was about their assessment of how much disrespect they could get away with. And once that clicks, something inside you tightens. You stop over-explaining. You stop negotiating your boundaries. You stop offering access to people who treat you like a trial run. They thought you were disposable. What they didn't realize is that tests don't just measure weakness. Sometimes they expose strength that hasn't been activated yet. Number two, the real disgust wasn't the act. It was how normal it felt to them. What hits the hardest isn't the act itself. It's the casual way they pulled it off, as if crossing your line was just another checkbox on their to-do list. There's a kind of cruelty in normalcy, a quiet horror in watching someone treat your trust, your boundaries, or your dignity like it was nothing more than background noise. That's what leaves a mark deeper than anger ever could. The understanding that for them, what they did was ordinary. Nothing shocking, nothing worth questioning. It's not about them being cruel in the obvious dramatic sense. It's worse than that. It's their comfort, their ease. That's the part that shakes you. They didn't hesitate. They didn't flinch. They didn't glance at your face and pause to consider the impact. They acted like it was normal behavior, because in their world, it was. That normalcy is a mirror that forces you to see just how skewed their sense of morality was. And suddenly, the issue isn't just the harm, it's the perspective they operated from. This normalcy forces you to confront something you can't ignore. People aren't always aware of their own toxicity, or worse, they know exactly what they're doing and don't care. That realization is sharp. It cuts deeper than anger because anger at least assumes you matter. Here, the disgust comes from understanding that you mattered only as long as you could be manipulated, tested, or taken for granted. That's what makes it so hard to forget. The raw, unapologetic indifference. And strangely, it's also the trigger for power. Recognizing how casually someone can harm you teaches a brutal lesson in self-reliance. You learn that waiting for someone to pause, to regret, or to value you is a trap. Your power grows not by demanding acknowledgement, but by refusing to let their comfort dictate your limits. The act was disgusting, yes, but the shock of their normalcy is what fuels your rise. It's the moment you realize, if it was effortless for them to dismiss you, it will take even less effort for you to outgrow them. Number 3, you didn't heal by becoming nicer. You healed by becoming sharper. Healing isn't about smiling more, forgiving faster, or pretending nothing happened. That's the kind of advice people throw around when they want comfort, not results. Real healing, the kind that turns betrayal and disgust into power, comes from clarity, precision, and a refusal to be soft where softness gets exploited. You didn't get stronger by bending. You got stronger by learning exactly where to stand and never budging again. Every bruise, every insult, every slight was data. You studied it, consciously or not. You noticed patterns in behavior, in excuses, in the ways people assumed you'd tolerate what they wouldn't dare do to anyone else. That observation sharpened you. Suddenly you weren't just reacting, you were predicting, measuring, and protecting. The kindness that used to get you approval or affection became strategic. You learned how to deliver it, without giving away control. That's the difference between being nice and being sharp. Being sharp doesn't mean being cruel. It means recognizing the boundaries you never had before and enforcing them without hesitation. It's seeing someone's intention before they even act and knowing what it costs them, and you, if they cross the line again. It's turning emotional confusion into operational clarity. While they expected you to soften under pressure, you hardened into precision. Every action became deliberate, every trust earned, every step forward calculated. The transformation is subtle, but it's unmistakable. People notice it even if they can't put it into words. They sense that you're not a target anymore, that your reactions aren't dictated by fear, hurt, or desperation. They see that you've taken the lessons of disgust and betrayal and used them to build armor that isn't heavy, but is unbreakable. You didn't heal by becoming more agreeable. You healed by becoming exact, by converting pain into skill, by turning vulnerability into insight. And that's the kind of strength no one ever sees coming. Number 4, the moment that broke you also removed your need for approval. There's a peculiar kind of liberation that comes from being broken. Not the dramatic kind people romanticize, but the quiet internal fracture where you realize that no one's opinion matters as much as you thought it did. Before that moment, you probably sought validation in every corner, friends, family, authority, strangers online, trying to measure your worth against someone else's approval. That pattern ends the moment you experience something raw, something so unsettling that you see clearly how little people actually consider your value. What's shocking isn't just the act that broke you, it's the revelation that people's respect, concern, or loyalty is often conditional, fragile, and self-serving. That's the turning point. You notice how little control you had over others' perceptions and how much power you gave away by chasing it. And when that bubble bursts, you stop caring what anyone thinks, because the only person who truly counts is the one who survived the storm you never asked for. That realization is terrifying at first, but then it becomes intoxicating. Removing the need for approval doesn't mean you stop caring altogether. It means you stop investing your energy where it doesn't matter. It means conversations, friendships, and decisions are measured by authenticity and alignment, not by whether someone will nod, clap, or praise you. The people who tried to break you become irrelevant, not because you hate them, but because their judgment no longer carries weight. Suddenly, your life is unrecognizable to the old version of you. Choices are yours, goals are yours, reactions are yours, and even your emotions belong only to you. That internal sovereignty is rare, and once you reach it, you can't go back. You no longer bend to fit other people's molds, and the freedom it brings is addictive. The moment that broke you didn't just hurt you, it liberated you. And in that liberation, you find a power no amount of praise could ever give. The absolute certainty that your value is defined by you and no one else. Number 5, they tried to reduce you to a moment. You expanded into a pattern they couldn't control. When someone crosses a line, the intention is often simple: reduce you, contain you, make you a single, manageable incident. They want a snapshot, a reaction, a moment they can write off and forget. They hope that the damage will be quick, the memory short, and your response predictable. That's how they think control works, through temporary shocks and calculated discomfort. What they don't realize is that people who survive that kind of targeting don't stay moments. They become forces. The moment they thought defined you instead ignited a sequence. Every insult, every betrayal, every slight added up like invisible building blocks. You weren't collapsing, you were constructing. While they assumed you'd flinch, explain, or apologize, you were observing, learning, and adjusting. Your reactions became intentional. Your silence became tactical. Your choices became deliberate. By the time they realized it, the moment was gone. You weren't a single point of pain anymore. You were a moving pattern of clarity, boundaries, and strength they had no way to anticipate. This transformation isn't loud. It doesn't scream. It doesn't demand recognition. It's subtle but unstoppable. People like that only notice it when they try to manipulate or provoke again and fail. Every attempt to repeat the pattern that worked before now collapses against your new structure. The power they thought they had is gone because they underestimated the cumulative effect of your awareness, your discernment, and your refusal to be contained. They treated you as a moment, but you became a blueprint. Your reactions, your growth, and your strengthened instincts are now a pattern they cannot predict or control. And the brilliance of it isn't revenge, it's evolution. They thought they could finish you in a blink, but you used that same blink to expand, to fortify, and to redefine yourself. The moment they counted on to limit you turned into a lifetime's architecture of power they will never touch. Number 6, What disgusted you rewired your standards permanently. When someone crosses the line, it's easy to let the sting fade and slip back into old habits, accepting almost respect or half loyalty, because it feels easier than confrontation. But when what happened disgusts you, truly shakes you to the core, it doesn't just hurt. It forces a reckoning with yourself and with the world. You suddenly notice the invisible boundaries you were bending, the compromises you tolerated, and the people you allowed too close for far too long. That disgust becomes a teacher, and the lesson is brutal. You cannot return to your old standards without losing yourself again. Every act of betrayal or violation rewires your internal compass. What once seemed acceptable now feels intolerable. The people who expected silence or excuses find themselves replaced by an instinctive, unspoken filter that asks, is this behavior worthy of my attention, my trust, or my energy? You start noticing patterns in others that you used to ignore. The excuses, the manipulations, the subtle dismissals, everything becomes a signal rather than background noise. That awareness isn't a curse. It's a form of self-preservation that turns disgust into discipline. This rewiring goes beyond people. It touches everything. Work, friendships, relationships, even your daily decisions. You stop accepting less than what aligns with your dignity. You stop tolerating compromises that chip away at your focus or integrity. Disgust has a way of carving clarity into your life, removing the clutter of mediocrity and self-doubt. The power of this shift lies in its permanence. Once your standards are recalibrated by true disgust, there's no going back. You can't unsee, unfeel, or unknow what you've learned. And that's exactly the advantage. The world tries to test you again, but you are no longer the same person who would tolerate anything. The shock that once threatened to break you now guides your decisions with precision, ensuring that your boundaries are no longer suggestions. They are immovable lines drawn in fire. You've turned revulsion into instinct, and instinct into a shield that no one can penetrate. Number 7. You became dangerous the day you stopped needing them to understand. There's a subtle shift that happens when you stop trying to make someone see what they've done. At first, the urge to explain yourself, to justify your reactions, or to demand acknowledgement feels natural, almost necessary. You want them to recognize the harm, to feel some fraction of the discomfort they caused. But the moment you realize that their understanding isn't required for your survival, your influence, or your peace, something changes. You become dangerous, not in the obvious physical sense, but in a way they can't measure, predict, or contain. Before, their perception of you carried weight. Their approval, their apology, their recognition were like invisible levers pulling at your choices. You reacted, adjusted, and often forgave in the hope of being seen correctly. But when that need disappears, all their power evaporates. Their actions no longer define your emotions, your plans, or your value. You move through life without waiting for validation, without strategizing around their responses. That independence makes you untouchable in ways they never anticipated. This danger isn't loud. It's in the calm precision of your decisions, the subtle way your energy is no longer available for manipulation. It's in the freedom to act purely for yourself, without calculation for their perception. They may have intended to destabilize or break you, but in letting go of their understanding, you destabilize the system they thought controlled you. Every interaction becomes neutral territory. They can no longer predict if you'll be reactive, compliant, or compliant enough to exploit. The truth is, people underestimate the danger of self-sufficiency. It's quiet, internal, and invisible to those who thrive on control. But it's unstoppable. Once you stop needing them to understand, you stop waiting for cues, excuses, or permission. You move with clarity, with boundaries, with purpose. And that is far more threatening than any confrontation, because it proves, without saying a word, that you are no longer theirs to shape, influence, or contain. You are dangerous simply because you are complete on your own terms. Number 8, they expected damage. They didn't expect discipline. When someone crosses a line, they often assume chaos will follow. They think anger, confusion, or emotional collapse is the inevitable reaction. That was their calculation. Push hard, hurt you, and watch the fallout. But what they didn't account for is that real power doesn't come from lashing out. It comes from control. You didn't crumble. You didn't spiral. Instead, you absorbed the shock, processed it, and turned it into structure. What they intended as damage became the framework for your discipline. Discipline is quiet, but it's lethal in its consistency. Every choice, every response, every decision starts aligning with your priorities rather than their projections. You stop wasting energy on revenge, explanations, or validation. You stop reacting in the moment because you've created a system inside yourself that evaluates, filters, and acts with precision. Where they saw chaos, you created order. Where they expected weakness, you built resilience. That gap between expectation and reality is what makes you dangerous, and in ways they will never understand. The irony is sharp. They thought harm alone could define the narrative. They imagined that the shock would linger, that it would push you into old patterns of defensiveness or insecurity. Instead, it forced you into discipline. You developed sharper instincts, clearer boundaries, and a methodical approach to life that leaves little room for manipulation. Every repetition of their pattern only strengthens your internal structure. Their attacks are no longer random. They're data points you study and learn from. This discipline isn't about rigidity or control over others. It's control over yourself. It's the ability to act deliberately, to prioritize impact over emotion, to let go of what doesn't serve you. They assumed the event would leave you fractured and reactive, but instead it left you focused, precise, and nearly untouchable. The lesson is simple but profound. The ones who underestimate you assume chaos, but the ones who master themselves turn every attempt at harm into a blueprint for unshakable strength. You didn't just survive the hit, they accidentally forged the weapon that will define your path forward. Number 9, you learned that being chosen isn't about being loved, it's about being forged. The idea of being chosen often comes wrapped in warmth and admiration, like it's a reward or a blessing. But life has a darker, sharper definition. Being chosen isn't about approval or affection, it's about endurance, testing, and transformation. The people or situations that single you out don't always see your potential with kindness. They see it as something to challenge, to provoke, to push to the edge. That's the cruel truth. Being chosen doesn't protect you from harm. It exposes you to it. And only those who survive the heat emerge stronger. Every betrayal, every shock, every disgusting thing done to you becomes a forge. It strips away naivety and reveals patterns, instincts, and hidden reserves of strength. Love isn't always present in these moments. Sometimes there's only cold calculation, indifference, or outright hostility. But the experience forces refinement. It teaches you which boundaries to set, which energy to conserve, and which people or behaviors to eliminate. Being chosen in this sense is less about reward and more about preparation. It's a crucible that tests endurance and sharpens resilience. The beauty of this realization is subtle but transformative. You stop expecting comfort from those who select you for challenges, and you stop confusing survival with approval. You understand that the value of being chosen lies not in external validation but in internal mastery. Each trial, no matter how painful, becomes a deliberate tool in your evolution. The people who picked you for difficulty unknowingly supply the material for your rise. The acts meant to weaken you are the very acts that strengthen you. When this truth clicks, everything changes. Being chosen no longer feels like a favor or a title. It feels like an initiation. And once you pass through, you emerge tempered, focused, and unmistakably powerful. What was meant to test your limits becomes the architecture of your power. Love is optional. Survival and growth are mandatory. And in that clarity, you realize the ultimate irony. They thought they were defining your story, but they were simply building the protagonist. Number 10. The insult wasn't what they did. It was how small they thought your future was. What cuts the deepest isn't always the act itself. It's the assumption behind it. The real sting comes from realizing that they measured you, weighed you, and concluded that your potential didn't matter. They treated your presence, your talent, your life as though it could be minimized without consequence. That belief that you were small, unimportant, or replaceable is the true insult. Every cruel word, every betrayal, every act of manipulation is rooted in underestimation. And underestimation leaves a mark far sharper than anything physical. When someone assumes your future is small, they operate with confidence. They think they can push, provoke, or humiliate you without ever needing to fear your response. That arrogance is meant to dominate, to control, and to make you doubt your own worth. But that miscalculation is where the power shifts. Once you realize the scale of their error, you see the opportunity hidden in the offense. They were blind to the depth, the intelligence, and the resilience that existed inside you. What they thought was weakness is actually the raw material for your rise. The moment you internalize this, perspective changes everything. You stop arguing with them, stop explaining yourself, and stop seeking validation from people who never considered your potential. Instead, you redirect your energy. Every insult becomes a reminder of the gap between their perception and your reality. Every attempt to shrink you fuels your determination to expand, to excel, and to prove, quietly but undeniably, that their estimation was absurdly low. That's the brilliance hidden in the insult. They underestimated your future, but underestimated is the exact condition that forces greatness. You are no longer confined by their narrow vision. Each step you take forward, each boundary you enforce, each success you claim is a direct rebuttal to the smallness they imposed on you. The insult itself fades, but the fire it ignited never does. What they thought was inconsequential becomes the launchpad for your undeniable, unstoppable growth. Number 11. You stopped telling the story to be understood and started using it as fuel. There's a moment when the urge to explain yourself fades, when you realize that no one will ever fully grasp the weight of what happened. And that's the moment your power quietly ignites. For too long, you may have replayed the event in your head, rehearsed the explanations, tried to make sense of it for others, or even for yourself. You wanted acknowledgement, validation, or at least recognition. But eventually, you understand that these efforts only give the story power over you. The people who caused the harm weren't going to change. Their opinions weren't going to shift. And anyone else's understanding is optional. Once that clicks, the story stops being about being understood and starts being about fueling yourself. When you use the story as fuel, every memory of betrayal, every pang of disgust, every moment of pain becomes energy. It's no longer a wound, it's a tool. It sharpens your instincts, strengthens your boundaries, and clarifies your goals. You stop carrying it as baggage. You carry it as a blueprint for growth. Every mistake they made, every line they crossed, becomes a lesson etched into your strategy. The story becomes a map showing exactly what to avoid, what to watch for, and what to never allow again. This shift transforms your entire approach to life. You no longer act out of reaction, you act out of precision. Your past stops controlling your present, and instead your past informs it. You become proactive instead of defensive. Every action, every decision, every relationship is now guided by the energy that once threatened to break you. The people who hurt you may have hoped the story would trap you, but instead it propels you. You become unstoppable because the narrative no longer lives outside you. It lives inside you as strength, clarity, and focus. The story isn't about being understood, it's about being unstoppable. What once chained you now drives you forward. And that transformation is undeniable, irreversible, and devastatingly effective. Number 12, you no longer confuse familiarity with safety. One of the hardest lessons life hands you is realizing that just because someone has been around for a long time doesn't mean they're trustworthy. Familiarity creates comfort, and comfort often masquerades as safety. You begin to see that the people who hurt you weren't outsiders, strangers, or threats in the traditional sense. They were close, known, and familiar. That closeness is what made the betrayal sharper, but it's also what taught you the most valuable lesson. Proximity does not equal protection, and history does not guarantee loyalty. Before this realization, you may have given people the benefit of the doubt endlessly. You assumed that time invested or shared experiences automatically built trust. You might have ignored warning signs, dismissed inconsistencies, or overlooked disrespect because familiarity convinced you that safety was inherent. But when someone familiar crosses a line, it strips away that illusion brutally and permanently. You learn that even people who have access to your life, your emotions, or your vulnerabilities can still be careless, manipulative, or indifferent. This clarity rewires how you operate. You start observing behaviors over history, noticing patterns instead of relying on past kindness or longevity. You understand that trust is earned constantly, not assumed automatically. You set boundaries, even with people who have been around for years, and you prioritize alignment over attachment. Familiar faces no longer give you automatic comfort. Their actions determine whether you allow them influence, closeness, or access. The power in this lesson is quiet but immense. It frees you from illusions and forces precision in how you invest your energy. You move through life with a sharper sense of awareness, treating relationships as choices rather than guarantees. You become selective, discerning, and deliberate. In the end, confusing familiarity with safety is a luxury you can no longer afford, and learning that lesson transforms vulnerability into armor. You stop relying on the past to protect you and start relying on your judgment, your instincts, and your boundaries. That shift changes everything. Number 13, the power you gained isn't loud, it's precise. There's a misconception that strength has to be visible, loud, or even dramatic to matter. The truth is far more unsettling for anyone who underestimated you. Real power doesn't shout. It doesn't announce itself with anger, chaos, or theatrics. The power you gain from betrayal, disgust, and shock is quiet, calculated, and exact. It moves through your life like a laser, focused on outcomes, not attention. What used to be wasted on reactions, explanations, or trying to prove yourself is now concentrated entirely where it counts. This precision makes you unpredictable to those who thought they could manipulate you. They once relied on chaos, on emotional reactions, on the idea that you would stumble when hurt. But your power doesn't respond in real time to provocation. It anticipates, observes, and executes with intent. Every decision is deliberate, every boundary enforced without hesitation, every interaction measured against your priorities. That's what makes it so dangerous. It's invisible to the casual observer, yet unstoppable when it acts. The subtlety of this power also brings clarity. You no longer expend energy on people or situations that don't serve your purpose. You no longer react impulsively to offense or insult. You operate like a system designed for efficiency. Responses are measured, trust is conditional, and energy is reserved for what matters. While others may mistake silence for weakness, precision ensures your influence is felt exactly where it should be, and nowhere else. This type of power is permanent because it comes from mastery of self. It's not about external approval, dramatic victories, or revenge. It's about control over your choices, your responses, and your trajectory. The loud chaos they expected is replaced by quiet dominance that cannot be challenged, predicted, or dismantled. The power you gained isn't for show, it's for execution. And the moment they realize it, it's already too late. You aren't loud, but you are lethal in ways they never imagined, because precision always outlasts noise. Number 14, what they did didn't make you bitter, it made you exact. There's a common misconception that pain, betrayal, or disgust inevitably leads to bitterness, resentment, or cynicism. But the truth is sharper, cleaner, and far more powerful. The real transformation isn't about carrying anger, it's about becoming exact. Every act meant to wound you becomes a lesson in precision. Every violation teaches you where to draw lines, who to trust, and what to prioritize. Bitterness clouds judgment, exactness owns it. And once you adopt exactness, life stops being a series of reactive moments and becomes a series of deliberate moves. Being exact means your time, energy, and attention are no longer up for grabs. You stop investing in people or situations that don't respect your boundaries. You stop guessing or hoping for understanding from those who never intended to give it. Every choice is measured, intentional, and rooted in experience. You know what will cost you unnecessarily and what will advance you purposefully. The power of exactness is that it leaves no room for waste, no tolerance for indecision, and no mercy for repetition of the same mistake. It's a quiet, relentless form of mastery. This exactness also transforms relationships. You no longer confuse familiarity with loyalty or history with reliability. Every connection is evaluated, every interaction intentional. You move like a force that is both subtle and unstoppable. People may not notice it immediately, but its impact is undeniable. The precision in your actions and responses makes you untouchable in ways that anger or bitterness never could. The ultimate irony is that what was meant to weaken you only refined you. The disgusting act, the betrayal, the shock, they were all raw material for a new version of yourself. You didn't collapse under their weight. You recalibrated. You became exact. And exactness is permanent. It's not about emotion. It's about structure, discipline, and clarity. Where bitterness burns out quickly, exactness endures, shaping every choice, every boundary, and every outcome with unstoppable intent. What they thought would break you ended up forging a version of you that cannot be misjudged, manipulated, or underestimated. Conclusion. What they did to you was meant to hurt, humiliate, and diminish. They assumed you would falter, fold, or shrink under the weight of their actions. But what they failed to realize is that every insult, every betrayal, and every moment of disgust was fuel for your transformation. You didn't just survive, you evolved. You became sharper, more disciplined, and far more precise than anyone could have predicted. You stopped seeking approval, stopped confusing familiarity with safety, and learned to turn every attempted wound into a blueprint for growth. The real power lies not in reacting, but in mastering yourself, in converting chaos into clarity, and in turning pain into exactness. What was intended to break you instead refined your instincts, strengthened your boundaries, and sharpened your focus. You became a force that operates quietly, deliberately, and irresistibly, unstoppable, because it no longer relies on others' recognition or understanding. Every moment of underestimation, every act of disregard, became an opportunity to expand beyond what they imagined possible. By the time they realized the mistake they made, it was already too late. The person they thought they could diminish had become someone they could never predict, control, or contain. The transformation is subtle but absolute. Pain and betrayal didn't make you bitter. They made you exact, intentional, and unshakable. That is the true power of turning shock into mastery, disgust into clarity, and violation into growth. If this story resonated with you, if it lit a spark of recognition or gave you the fuel to push forward, don't keep it to yourself. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content that cuts deeper than surface motivation. Like, comment, and share this with someone who needs to see the truth and rise above it. Your growth doesn't happen in silence. It happens when you take control and move with precision. Stay blessed always.